Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. All right, everybody. I'm back. Good to be back. So it is Tuesday. I'll be transparent, wasn't really planning on doing any sort of live content here on the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel, but you just never know when news is going to break. And we just got some late breaking news that is at least worth discussing. It involves the recruitment of Braydon Hawthorne, who coming into Wednesday was the highest ranked player left in the class of 2025 in basketball. Yes, we are talking about seniors. Yes, we are talking about a guy that is going to enroll in college in the next couple years and play college basketball next season. So really kind of unique story on this kid, okay? So he was always kind of seen, first of all, 6'8", wing, crazy athletic, but he was always kind of seen as kind of a high upside guy, a kind of guy, fringe top 100 player, get him into your program. Maybe by year 2, year 3, he becomes something. Maybe by year 4, who knows? Well, he ends up committing to West Virginia several months back. And two things kind of interesting happened in probably the last 4 to 5 months. One, absolutely blows up as a player. So he goes from a very good player that, you're kind of the kind of guy that you think is going to be part of a high major program, but how much is he going to contribute in year 1 to a guy that it's like, oh, he can play right away. He can contribute right away. And what became especially interesting was that his recruitment got reopened because, as I said, he was committed to West Virginia. As we all know, Darren DeVree leaves West Virginia to take the Indiana coaching job. And so all of a sudden, he is now available as a recruit. Well, I bring it up because just moments ago, Braydon Hawthorne announced his college decision after he reopened his recruitment. His final 4 were West Virginia, where he was originally committed, Pitt, Virginia Tech. That's important because the coach who recruited him to West Virginia, Chester Frazier, is now at Virginia Tech, and the little Kentucky Wildcats. Well, just moments ago, Braydon Hawthorne officially made his college decision, and he commits to the University of Kentucky, baby. That is right. I got nothing else to say other than hope and Pope. If you were doubting him coming into today, you shouldn't. Mark Pope gets his man. I think this roster is finally done. And oh, by the way, make sure to get your Hope and Pope t-shirts. You can get them, of course, AaronTorresOnline.com/merchandise. By the way, when I say I think the roster's done, that's assuming Otega Owe is coming back for another season. Let's go ahead and dive in. Like I said, Braydon Hawthorne's a really good player, okay? And I know I say, listen, we most of the guys we talk about are very good players. I mean, I'm not talking about the 227th ranked player in America that's committed to UNC Greensboro or something. But this kid, to me, like I said, listen, I'm not a recruiting analyst, but I try to follow all of the main players. And every single time that I watched him, he got better and better over time. And you could see why there was so much excitement with this kid. 6'8", super athletic. But not a guy that's just an athlete. He's got nice touch. He's got kind of good body control around the rim. And he really is the kind of guy. He's got to grow into his body. He almost reminds me of like a Brandon Ingram type coming out of high school. Brandon Ingram, of course, a guy that was kind of skinny, but you could kind of see the skill and the speed. And he's 6'10". He's got crazy long arms, but, he can shoot the basketball. That's kind of Braydon Hawthorne. 6'8", 6'9", whatever he is, shoots the crap out of the ball. And to me, just the type of player that I think as time goes on is going to get better and better. And again, you could see the improvement year over year just from this time last year when he was a relative unknown to right now when he was ranked the 33rd prospect in the class of 2025 rankings, according to 24/7 Sports. So you see the jump, you see the athleticism, and obviously you see a player that I think can contribute at the high major level next year. And so let's get into how he can contribute at Kentucky because, yes, he's a freshman. As Mark Pope said last week with Jasper Johnson and with Malachi Moreno, there is always a kind of growth curve with physicality and athleticism when you come to college basketball, especially a conference like the SEC. But this is a kid who I think can contribute early and I think could be an X factor down the road in a big, big way at Kentucky. Right now, first of all, kind of just a deer right now. He kind of reminds me of a baby deer that's just trying to figure out his body. But again, get him in a college weight program over the next couple months. He's going to put on weight. And I just think he is a guy that can absolutely play a role this year and be a major contributor maybe in year 2, year 3, okay? So when I think of this commitment, I think it's almost a best case scenario for everybody because, listen, Braydon Hawthorne, I think smartly, I don't think he's a guy that should have been looking for a school where he could play 33 minutes a night because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to be rude or mean or crap. I don't know that he's ready to do that for 33, 34 minutes a night at the high major level. But as I said, can he go play 15, 18 minutes per game, get better playing against essentially grown men in college basketball and really, again, serve a purpose, play a role, but also what's important, go to a place where you're not going to have too many expectations on you, but then conversely, a place where you will be able to play. And that's why I think it makes a lot of sense to commit to Kentucky with Mark Pope. Mark Pope, listen, he's been very vocal about two things that I think apply specifically to Braydon Hawthorne. First thing is, he plays a lot of players. Okay, if you go back to his BYU teams, there were teams, his last team, they really went legitimately 11 deep. And I think sometimes, coaches say, oh, I play 11, and it's a recruiting tool. You want guys for your bench. You want guys for whatever. No, Mark Pope plays all of those guys. And I think we saw it this year when his team was healthy. Oh, yeah, he'll run 11 deep. Go back to the early days before the Kirk Crease injury, before the Andrew Carr stuff, before Lamont Butler, Jackson Robinson were in and out of the lineup. They were literally too deep at every position. Too deep at point guard with Lamont Butler and Kirk Crease, too deep at the center spot with Brandon Garrison and Amari Williams, too deep basically at every spot, and all of those guys were getting minutes. And so what some coaches, when they tell you, yeah, we like to have a deep bench, we like to play guys, it's nonsense. They want to get you on campus. They want another body for practice. That is not who Mark Pope is, and that's not the style of play. And so, one, I think it's a good fit for Braydon Hawthorne because he can go there and play a role. But two, if he stays the course, and listen, it's a transfer portal world. Things are crazy. I get it. But at the same time, if you think about the leap that he could hypothetically make from year 1 to year 2, this was something else that Mark Pope talked about, is that, in his system, guys get better year over year over year. So a week ago, Mark Pope did a media availability where he talked about, the guys that are in year 2 in his system, Brandon Garrison, Colin Chandler, Trent Noah, we assume Otega Owe. Well, imagine what this kid who has NBA upside could be a year from now if he stays the course. And again, I understand it's the portal world, but again, he's not going to a place that only plays 7 or 8 guys. He's going to a place where he should be able to step in right away and play meaningful minutes. Now, what I find especially interesting is I think this is yet another good metaphor for both how Mark Pope built his second team, but also how I think you have to build college basketball rosters in 2025. And we've talked about this in the recent weeks. First off, in terms of how Mark Pope has built his most recent teams or his second team, we have emphasized it from essentially the middle of portal season on. It is clear that he emphasized size and athleticism with this second team. Listen, I understand that last year at this time, he's just scrambling to put together a roster. That's okay. All things considered, he did as well as he possibly could with 0 players left in the program when he took over. But I think you go through year 1 in the SEC and you see, listen, the system's great. You need shooting. You need skill. But at the end of the day, you just need baseline dudes that can go make stuff happen when it all breaks down. That's what Jalen Lowe is. That's what Mo Diabate is. That's what Otega Owe will be, assuming he comes back. And also, that is what Jasper Johnson could be. That is what Braydon Hawthorne could be. And so, again, I think Braydon Hawthorne is the metaphor of, oh, wait a second now. Again, another dude who can just go out there and make plays and should get better year over year. 2, this is the new world of college basketball. Okay, we're waiting on this house settlement, and it's boring, and I don't talk about it because you guys don't care. But one of the things, everybody's talking about the NIL ramifications, the fact that we're in theory going to put a cap on NIL, which I don't believe is going to happen. But one of the things that is supposed to happen is that there is supposed to be a uptick in scholarships available. And so you have a situation where you could now have up to 15 scholarships year over year going forward. And so what I have seen a lot of schools do, and we've talked about this, is you really prioritize in the early part of March into the late part of March. Who are you bringing back? And then who are like the key guys out of the portal? So at Kentucky, it would have been Cam Williams. It would have been Jalen Lowe. It would have been Jaden Quaintance. By the way, I didn't even mention Jaden Quaintance and Cam Williams when I'm talking about how much more athletic and tough that team's going to be. So forgive me, gentlemen. I apologize. But then from there, and by the way, it's not just at Kentucky. It's at every school. Who's coming back and who are like the big fish that you want to go get? Then from there, it becomes how do you fill out the back part of your roster with guys that can play a role, do a couple things really well, or three, become developmental pieces and great practice pieces. And so what I think Mark Pope has done over the last two commitments is take guys that maybe might be thrown into the fire a little bit this year, but more realistically are going to be guys that you hope can stay the course, can be here more than 1 year, and can really develop into dudes in year two. And in the meantime, be really good practice players somewhere in between, guys that play a role and guys that could be really good down the stretch. We talked about Reese Potter when he committed. By the way, Reese Potter we had on this podcast about a week ago. If you missed it, go back and check it out. But Reese Potter is that. Is he going to be the starting center? I certainly hope not. I think Reese Potter understands. He said it on this show. No, I'm not coming in to be a starter. But do I think I can help in practice? And if things go crazy and if I earn my minutes, then yeah, I can play a role. And I think it's the same with Braydon Hawthorne. You don't want Braydon Hawthorne, as I said, playing 35 minutes a game. But if he plays 22, maybe by the end of the year, things go well, and all of a sudden you get a little bit more out of him than you were expecting. But what I will say, I think this is a great talent. Top 35 prospect in the class of 2025. And again, the best part is you're not bringing him in to be the guy, but instead a key piece on what should be a very good team. I'll tell you this, Boogie Flan committed today. I think Darian Williams is coming soon. We're going to have to update our way too early top 25. But as I've said, since the core of this Kentucky roster came together, they're as good as anybody in the SEC, and they are in the short conversation for preseason SEC favorites going into next year. Shout out to Mark Pope. He does it again. That's right, baby. Hope in Pope. Mark Pope gets his man.